The great hall of the Calthrine Empire gleamed with crystal lights that floated in the air like captured stars. Empress Valthara sat on her throne, her skin shimmering with the purple and gold markings that showed her royal blood. Around her stood the members of her court, all wearing their finest robes and jewelry that clinked softly as they moved. Today they were discussing the humans. They dare to ask for a marriage alliance? One of the advisors said, his voice filled with mockery. These creatures who only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. The Empress tapped her long fingers on the armrest of her throne. The humans were new to the galactic community, yes, but they had proven themselves surprisingly capable. Their ships were crude but effective. Their diplomats were straightforward to the point of being rude. And worst of all, other species were starting to take them seriously. We cannot simply refuse them, another advisor said. The Galactic Council would see it as an insult. The humans have followed proper protocol. Then we give them what they ask for, said Lord Cavern, the oldest of the advisors. A slow smile spread across his face. We give them a princess. The Empress raised one eyebrow. You suggest I give them one of my daughters? Not just any daughter, Your Majesty. Lord Cavern's smile grew wider. We give them Princess Zalara. A ripple of laughter went through the court. Even the Empress allowed herself a small smile. Princess Zalara stood in the back of the hall as she always did. She had learned long ago to make herself small and quiet during court gatherings. When she heard her name, her heart sank. The infertile one, the Empress said. You would give them broken goods? Exactly, Your Majesty, Lord Cavern said. The humans know nothing of our biology. They will accept the princess with gratitude. It will take them months, perhaps years, to realize she cannot bear children. By then, the marriage will be complete and we will have fulfilled our obligation. More laughter filled the hall. Zalara felt her face grow hot, but she kept her eyes down. And when they discover the truth? The Empress asked. What can they do? Lord Cavern spread his hands. Break the alliance? They will look like fools. They will have to live with their mistake. And we will have removed a source of embarrassment from our own court. The Empress considered this for a long moment. Zalara held her breath, hoping against hope that her mother would show some mercy, some small kindness. Very well, the Empress said. Prepare Princess Zalara for the journey. Inform the humans that we graciously accept their proposal. The court erupted in pleased murmurs and barely concealed giggles. Zalara turned and walked out of the hall, her head held high even as she felt tears threatening to fall. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. In her chambers, Zalara sat by the window and looked out at the city below. She had always known she was a disappointment to her family. While her sisters had married into powerful families and produced heirs, she remained alone. The doctors had tried everything, but her body simply would not cooperate. In Caltrine society, a female who could not bear children had no value, and now she was being sent away as a joke. A knock came at her door. Her attendant, an elderly Calthrine named Mira, entered with a sad expression. I'm so sorry, Princess, Mira said softly. It is not your fault, Zalara replied. Tell me about these humans. What are they like? Mira hesitated. They are strange, Princess. They have no markings on their skin. Their colors are all wrong, browns and pinks and yellows. They are short-lived compared to us, barely making it to 100 of their years, and they are loud and emotional. Do they treat their females well? I do not know, Princess. Some say they are barbaric. Others say they are surprisingly kind. They are difficult to understand. Zalara nodded slowly. At least I will be away from here. Perhaps that is something. Far across the galaxy on the human colony of New Terra, Captain Jake Morrison was having a very different conversation. You want me to what? Jake asked, staring at the Admiral across the desk. Marry an alien princess, Admiral Grant said calmly. It is a standard diplomatic practice among the older species. They see it as a sign of good faith. I am a pilot, sir, not a diplomat. You are also a decorated officer with a spotless record. You are respected by your crew. And frankly, Jake, you are one of the few people I trust not to mess this up. Jake ran a hand through his dark hair. He was 32 years old, and he had spent the last 10 years of his life in space. Marriage had never been part of his plans, especially not to an alien he had never met. What do we know about her? He asked. Princess Zalara, youngest daughter of Empress Valthara, 28 years old by our calendar. The Calthrine have sent her medical records, though our doctors are still trying to make sense of them. Different biology, you understand? And she agreed to this? The Admiral paused. The Calthrine do not give their females much choice in these matters. But this is important, Jake. This alliance could mean everything for humanity's position in the Galactic Council. We need this. Jake closed his eyes. He thought about all the soldiers who had died to protect human colonies. He thought about the children growing up on New Terra who deserved a safe future. He thought about duty and sacrifice. When do I meet her? He asked. 2 weeks. The ceremony will be held on the Calthrine homeworld. You will bring her back here afterwards. We have prepared a residence for you both. The wedding was exactly as cold as Zalara had expected. The Calthrine court attended in full ceremonial dress, their faces showing barely hidden amusement. The humans sent a small delegation, looking uncomfortable in their formal uniforms. Jake Morrison stood straight and serious as he repeated the vows in carefully practiced Calthrine. He was taller than most Calthrine males, with broad shoulders and calloused hands that spoke of hard work. His brown eyes were kind, Zalara noticed, even if his face showed no emotion. When it was her turn to speak, Zalara's voice came out steady and clear. She would not show weakness. Not here. Not in front of these people who had never shown her anything but contempt. The ceremony ended. They were married. As they walked out of the hall together, Jake offered her his arm. Zalara took it, surprised by the gesture of courtesy. Behind them, she could hear the laughter starting already. They think this is very funny, Jake said quietly. You understand our language? Zalara asked, startled. Enough to know when I am being mocked. He looked down at her. I am sorry you were forced into this. I am sorry you were tricked, Zalara replied. I assume they did not tell you everything about me? They told me enough. It does not matter. Zalara looked at him in confusion. It does not matter that I cannot give you children? That I am worthless? Jake stopped walking. He turned to face her fully, his expression serious but not unkind. You are not worthless, he said firmly. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they are wrong. For the first time in years, Zalara felt something other than shame. It was small and fragile, but it was there. Hope. The journey to New Terra took 3 days aboard the human ship USS Endeavor. Zalara spent most of that time in her assigned quarters, staring out the window at the stars rushing past. She had her own room, which surprised her. Jake had explained that she could have her own space until she felt comfortable. On the second day, there was a knock on her door. When she opened it, Jake stood there with a tray of food. I thought you might be hungry, he said. The mess hall can be loud and overwhelming. I remember my first few days on a ship. The food was strange, nothing like Calthrine cuisine, but Jake patiently explained each item. There was something called pasta with red sauce, a green salad, and a sweet dessert called chocolate cake. Try the cake, Jake said with a small smile. It is my favorite. Zalara took a careful bite. The sweetness exploded in her mouth, and despite everything, she found herself smiling. It is good, she admitted. Not everything human is bad. Then, Jake said. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Zalara asked the question that had been bothering her. Why are you being kind to me? You know what I am. You know I cannot give you what humans want from a wife. Jake set down his fork. What do you think humans want? Children, heirs, a family line. Is that not why marriages exist? Some marriages, maybe, but not all. Jake leaned back in his chair. My parents married because they loved each other. They had me, yes, but they would have been happy together even without children. They were partners first. Partners? Zalara tested the word. People who face life together, who support each other, who make each other better. Jake looked at her directly. I did not choose this situation, and neither did you. But we are in it together now. We can make the best of it, or we can make each other miserable. I would prefer the first option. Zalara felt something tight in her chest loosen just a little. I would prefer that too. New Terra was beautiful. The colony had been established 20 years ago, and the humans had worked hard to make it feel like home. There were green parks, busy markets, and buildings that reached toward the sky. Children played in the streets, and people smiled at each other as they passed. Jake's house was modest but comfortable. It had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living area, and a small garden in the back. He showed her around, pointing out where everything was kept. This is your house too now, he said. Change anything you want. Make it feel like home. I do not know what home feels like, Zalara said quietly. Jake's expression softened. Then we will figure it out together. The first few weeks were strange. Jake went to work at the military base each morning and came home in the evening. He always asked about her day and listened when she talked. He never pushed her to act like a wife, never demanded anything from her. He was simply there, steady and patient. Zalara began to explore the colony. She walked through the markets, watching the humans go about their lives. They were loud, just as Mira had said, but they were also warm. Strangers smiled at her. Shop owners patiently explained their goods. Children stared at her markings with open curiosity rather than judgment. One day she met a human woman named Lisa Chen in the market. Lisa was a doctor who specialized in reproduction and genetics. When she learned who Zalara was, her eyes lit up with scientific curiosity rather than pity. "Would you be willing to let me study your medical records?" Lisa asked eagerly. "I know that is a personal request, but Calthrine biology is fascinating." "We know so little about it," Zalara hesitated. Every Calthrine doctor she had seen had made her feel broken and defective. But Lisa seemed different. There was no judgment in her eyes, only genuine interest. "Why do you want to know?" Zalara asked. "Because understanding how different species work helps us help people," Lisa said. "And honestly, because I love solving puzzles. Your doctors said you are infertile, but I wonder if they were looking at it the right way." "What do you mean?" "Calthrine doctors know Calthrine biology, but they do not know human biology, and they do not know what happens when the two interact. Maybe there is something they missed." It was a tiny spark of possibility, and Zalara was afraid to hope, but she agreed to share her records. Over the next few months, Zalara began to change. She learned to cook human food, often making dinner for Jake when he came home. She started wearing human clothes mixed with Calthrine styles, creating something uniquely her own. She made friends with the neighbors, especially an elderly woman named Betty who taught her how to garden. Jake watched these changes with quiet pleasure. He taught her how to play chess, how to ride the hover bikes the humans used for transportation, and how to laugh at silly comedy shows. In return, she taught him about Calthrine art, music, and philosophy. They began to talk late into the night, sharing stories about their lives. Zalara told him about growing up in the palace, always feeling like she was not enough. Jake told her about losing his father in a mining accident, and how it had driven him to join the military to make a difference. "Do you miss your family?" Jake asked one night. "I miss the idea of family," Zalara said. "I miss what I wish they had been. But I do not miss the reality of them. You deserve better than how they treated you." I am starting to believe that. 6 months after her arrival, Zalara visited Lisa's medical lab for another round of tests. Lisa had been working with a Calthrine physician she had found on a nearby space station, comparing notes and theories. "I have been thinking," Lisa said as she ran the scans. "Calthrine reproduction requires very specific hormone balances. Your body does not produce those hormones in the right combinations. That is what makes you infertile by Calthrine standards." "I know all this," Zalara said tiredly. "But human reproduction works differently. We use different hormones, different mechanisms. And there is something interesting in your latest blood work. Your body has been producing some hormones it never made before. Small amounts, but they are there." Zalara sat up. "What does that mean?" "I do not know yet. It could mean nothing. But the timing is interesting. These new hormones started showing up about 3 months ago, right around the time you and Jake started becoming close." "We are just friends," Zalara said quickly. Lisa smiled knowingly. "If you say so. But Zalara, I think there might be a possibility here. A small one, maybe even a tiny one, but a possibility nonetheless. If you and Jake ever decided to be more than friends, things might work differently than anyone expects." That night, Zalara looked at Jake across the dinner table and saw him with new eyes. Somewhere along the way, he had stopped being the stranger she was forced to marry. He had become someone she cared about deeply, someone she trusted, someone she could imagine building a real life with. "Jake," she said suddenly, "why did you never ask me about being a real wife?" He looked surprised by the question. "Because that was not our agreement. I told you we would be partners, and partners respect each other's boundaries. What if I wanted to change our agreement?" Jake set down his fork carefully. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that somewhere in the last 6 months I stopped seeing this as a duty. You have shown me what kindness looks like, what respect looks like, what it feels like to be valued for who I am, not what I can provide." Zalara took a deep breath. "I am saying I have fallen in love with you." The silence stretched between them. Then Jake smiled, really smiled, in a way she had never seen before. I was waiting for you to be ready, he said. I fell in love with you months ago. He reached across the table and took her hand. His skin was warm against hers, different but not wrong. Just different. I cannot promise you children, Zalara warned. I do not want you to hope for something that cannot happen. I promise you this, Jake said firmly. You are enough. Just you, exactly as you are. That is all I need. They both stood, moving around the table until they were close. When Jake kissed her, it was gentle and careful, asking rather than demanding. Zalara kissed him back, feeling something she had never felt before. She felt whole. 3 months after that night, Zalara woke up feeling strange. Her stomach churned, and the smell of Jake making breakfast made her feel sick. She rushed to the bathroom, barely making it in time. Jake appeared in the doorway, concerned. Are you okay? Should I call a doctor? I am fine, Zalara said, wiping her mouth. It must be something I ate. But the sickness continued for 3 more days. On the 4th morning, Jake insisted she see Lisa. At the medical center, Lisa ran her usual tests. Zalara sat on the examination table, trying not to feel embarrassed about getting sick over nothing. But when Lisa looked at the results, her face went pale. Zalara, Lisa said slowly, when was your last cycle? My last what? Your reproductive cycle. Caltrine females have them every 40 days, correct? Zalara thought about it. I do not know. I stopped tracking them years ago. They are irregular for me anyway because of my condition. Lisa pulled up Zalara's medical records and began comparing dates. Her hands were shaking slightly as she worked. Finally, she turned to Zalara with wide eyes. I need to run more tests, Lisa said. Specific ones. Zalara, do not panic, but I think you might be pregnant. The words did not make sense. Zalara stared at her. That is impossible. I know what the Calthrine doctors said. But please, let me run these tests. An hour later, Lisa called Jake to the medical center. He arrived quickly, worried about what emergency could require his presence. He found Zalara sitting quietly in Lisa's office, looking stunned. What is wrong? Jake asked immediately. Is she sick? No, Lisa said. She was smiling, but there were tears in her eyes. Jake, Zalara is pregnant. About 9 weeks along by my estimates. Jake sat down heavily. How? I have been studying this for months, running theories and models. I thought it might be possible, but I never expected it to actually happen. Lisa pulled up images on her screen. Calthrine reproduction requires specific hormones that Zalara's body cannot produce on its own. But human bodies produce different hormones. When you two became intimate, Jake's biology began affecting Zalara's. His hormones supplemented what she was missing. I do not understand, Zalara whispered. Think of it like a puzzle, Lisa explained. Calthrine reproduction needs pieces A, B, and C. You have A and B, but you are missing C. Calthrine males also have A, B, and C, so being with them does not help you. But human males have X, Y, and Z. Somehow Z works like C in your system. It is not exactly the same, but it is close enough. So the baby is possible because Jake is human. Jake asked, exactly. This has never happened before because Calthrine and humans do not usually form genuine romantic bonds. The political marriages are for show. But you two actually fell in love, and that made all the difference. Zalara put her hand on her stomach. There was a life growing inside her. A life that should not exist, but did. Is the baby healthy? She asked quietly. All the signs are good so far, Lisa said. But I will be honest with you. I do not know what to expect. This is completely new territory. The baby will have genetics from both species. We will need to monitor everything very carefully. Jake knelt beside Zalara's chair and took her hands. Whatever happens, we face it together. Zalara looked at him, this human who had given her so much more than she ever dreamed possible. I am frightened. Me too, Jake admitted. But I am also happy. Are you happy? Zalara thought about it. Despite the fear and the uncertainty, there was joy bubbling up inside her. Yes, she said, starting to smile. Yes, I am happy. The news could not stay secret for long. Lisa had to consult with other medical experts to ensure Zalara's safety. Those experts told others. Within 2 weeks, the story had spread across New Terra, then to other human colonies, and finally into the wider galactic community. The reaction was immediate and loud. On the Calthrine homeworld, Empress Valthara called an emergency council meeting. The advisors who had laughed about sending Zalara away now looked worried. This must be a lie, Lord Cavern said. It is scientifically impossible. The humans have provided medical data, another advisor said. Their doctors are willing to share all their findings. It appears to be genuine. The Empress sat in silence, her mind racing. If Zalara truly was pregnant, it changed everything. The daughter she had thrown away like garbage was now carrying something unprecedented, a child with royal blood who might inherit traits from both species. We must bring her home, the Empress declared. Immediately, Your Majesty, Lord Cavern said carefully. She may not want to come. We did not treat her well. She is still my daughter. That child is still my grandchild. Bring them home. On New Terra, Jake and Zalara were dealing with their own challenges. The galactic media wanted interviews. Scientists from a dozen species wanted to study Zalara. The Galactic Council wanted to understand what this meant for interspecies relations. And through it all, Zalara's body was changing. Her calthrine markings grew brighter. Her stomach began to swell. The baby moved inside her, little flutters that made her laugh and cry at the same time. Jake was devoted to her care. He made sure she ate properly, went to all her medical appointments, and got enough rest. He read every book about pregnancy he could find, even though most of them were written for human mothers. Listen to this, he said one evening, reading from a pregnancy guide. The baby can hear sounds from outside now. We should talk to her. Her? Zalara asked, or him, but I have a feeling it is a girl. Zalara put Jake's hand on her stomach. As if responding to his touch, the baby kicked. Jake's eyes went wide with wonder. Hello in there, he said softly. This is your dad. I cannot wait to meet you. The moment was interrupted by a call from Admiral Grant. His expression was serious. Jake, the Calthrine Empire has sent ships to New Terra. They are demanding that Zalara return home. They want her to have the baby on their world with their doctors. Absolutely not, Jake said immediately. She is not going anywhere without her consent, and certainly not back to people who treated her cruelly. I agree, but we need to handle this carefully. We cannot risk war over this. Zalara had been listening to the conversation. She stood up, placing her hand protectively over her stomach. I will speak to them, she said, but not here. If they want to see me, they can come properly with respect. I am not a piece of property they can reclaim whenever they want. Admiral Grant looked surprised, then impressed. I will send that message. The Calthrine ships waited in orbit for 3 days before the Empress herself arrived aboard her flagship. She sent a formal request for a meeting with her daughter. They met in the Human Diplomatic Building, a neutral space. The Empress entered wearing full royal regalia, her markings glowing with power. Zalara wore a simple human dress that accommodated her pregnant belly. For a long moment, mother and daughter simply looked at each other. You look well, the Empress finally said. I am well, Zalara replied. The humans have taken good care of me. I have come to bring you home. This is my home now. The Empress's eyes flickered with something that might have been pain. Zalara, I know I have been a terrible mother to you. I know I failed you in every way that matters. But please let me try to make it right. Come home. Let our doctors help with the birth. Your doctors told me I was worthless, Zalara said quietly. They said I would never have value because I could not have children. Now that I am pregnant, suddenly I matter? No, mother. I do not accept that. Then what do you want? Zalara looked at Jake, who stood beside her with quiet support. Then she looked back at her mother. I want you to admit you were wrong. Not just about me, but about humans. About what makes a person valuable. About everything. Zalara took a breath. And I want you to change. The Calthrine Empire needs to stop treating people like objects. Stop judging worth by bloodlines and biology. The Empress was quiet for a long time. Finally, she bowed her head. You have become strong, she said. Stronger than I ever was. Very well, I will make changes. But please, daughter, come home. Even if just to visit. Let me meet my grandchild. Zalara considered this. I will visit, she agreed. But I return here for the birth. Lisa will deliver my baby, not your doctors. And Jake comes with me everywhere. Agreed, the Empress said. For the first time in Zalara's life, her mother looked at her with something like respect. The journey back to the Calthrine homeworld was very different from Zalara's departure. This time she traveled on a Calthrine royal ship, but with her own terms. Jake was at her side, Lisa came as her personal physician, and a small team of human diplomats accompanied them. When their ship approached the palace landing platform, Zalara could see crowds gathered below. News of her pregnancy had spread throughout the empire. People wanted to see the princess who had achieved the impossible. "Are you ready?" Jake asked, squeezing her hand. "No," Zalara admitted, "but I'm going anyway." The reception ceremony was formal and grand. The Empress stood at the top of the palace steps, flanked by Zalara's two sisters. The older one, Thera, looked curious. The middle sister, Kova, looked jealous. Zalara walked up the steps slowly, her pregnant belly visible beneath her ceremonial robes. She had chosen to wear a mix of human and Calthrine fashion, making a statement about her new identity. "Welcome home, daughter," the Empress said formally. Then quieter, she added, "You look beautiful." The words surprised Zalara. Her mother had never complimented her appearance before. The palace had prepared an entire wing for Zalara, Jake, and their team. The rooms were luxurious, filled with comfortable furniture and beautiful art. But there were also guards posted at every door. "Are we prisoners?" Jake asked Admiral Grant through a secure communication channel that evening. "The Empress says they are for your protection," Grant replied. "But keep your eyes open. Not everyone in the Calthrine court is happy about this situation." He was right to be cautious. That very night, Zalara woke to the sound of movement outside their door. Jake was already awake, his military training making him alert to danger. "Stay here," he whispered to Zalara. "No," she said firmly. "This is my home. I will not hide." They opened the door together to find two guards struggling with a cloaked figure holding a weapon. Jake moved fast, disarming the intruder with practiced efficiency. When they pulled back the hood, they found a young Calthrine male with wild eyes. "Abomination," he spat at Zalara. "Your child is an insult to our species. It should never be born." More guards arrived, dragging the attacker away. The Empress appeared minutes later, her face tight with anger. "I am sorry," she said to Zalara. "I will find out who sent him." "You know who sent him," Zalara said tiredly. "Someone on your council who sees my child as a threat." The Empress did not deny it. "I will protect you. I swear it." The next day, the Empress called a full gathering of the Calthrine court. Every noble family, every advisor, every person of influence was required to attend. Zalara and Jake stood beside the throne, visible to everyone. "There has been an attempt on my daughter's life," the Empress announced. Her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "Let me be clear. Princess Zalara is under my personal protection. Any threat to her or her child is a threat to me. Any person who acts against her will be considered a traitor to the Empire," the court murmured. But no one dared speak openly against the Empress. Furthermore, the Empress continued, "I am declaring that Princess Zalara's child will be recognized as a full member of the royal family, with all rights and privileges. This child represents something new, something we do not understand yet. But that is no reason for fear. It is a reason for hope." After the gathering, Zalara's sister Thara approached her cautiously. "May I speak with you privately?" They went to one of the palace gardens, with Jake staying close but giving them space to talk. Thara looked uncomfortable, her markings flickering with nervousness. "I owe you an apology," Thara said. "I laughed when they sent you away. I thought it was funny that you were given to the humans like a joke. I am ashamed of that now. Why tell me this?" Zalara asked. "Because I have been trying to conceive for 5 years," Thara said quietly. "My husband and I have been to every doctor, tried every treatment. Nothing works. And I realized that I might end up like you were, cast aside as defective. Watching you come back strong and pregnant made me see how cruel we have been." Zalara felt unexpected sympathy for her sister. "I am sorry you are struggling. How did you do it?" Thara asked. "How did you make it work?" "I fell in love with someone who was different from me," Zalara said simply. "Someone whose biology complemented mine in ways I never expected. But more than that, I learned that my worth was not tied to having children. That came first. The pregnancy was just a surprise gift." Thara looked at Jake, who was examining flowers nearby to give them privacy. "He really loves you, doesn't he?" "Yes, and I love him." "That is beautiful," Thara said softly. Over the next few weeks, Zalara met with various Calthrine scientists and doctors. Lisa worked alongside them, sharing her research and findings. Some of the Calthrine doctors were defensive, unhappy that a human had solved a problem they could not, but others were genuinely interested and excited by the implications. Master Torvin, the oldest and most respected physician in the Empire, spent hours studying Zalara's medical data with Lisa. "Remarkable," he kept saying. "Absolutely remarkable. We were so focused on fixing the Calthrine body that we never considered adding something new to the equation. Could this help other Calthrine who cannot conceive? Lisa asked. Perhaps. We would need to study it much more, and it would require Calthrine to be willing to bond with other species, which goes against our cultural traditions. Traditions can change, Zalara said, having entered the lab to check on their progress. If people want families badly enough, they will change. Meanwhile, Jake found himself in an unexpected position. Other humans in the diplomatic corps looked to him as an example of successful human-alien relations. Calthrine nobles, curious about the human who had fixed the infertile princess, invited him to formal events. At one such event, a Calthrine lord named Varan approached him. "Tell me, human, what is your secret? How did you succeed where our males failed?" "I treated her like a person," Jake said simply. "Not a problem to solve." Varan looked offended. "We treated her with all proper respect. You treated her like a defective object." "There is a difference." The tension in Jake's voice made several nearby Calthrine pause their conversations, but Zalara, standing next to him, smiled proudly. "My husband speaks truth," she said clearly, "and it is truth that our society needs to hear." As Zalara's pregnancy progressed, she began to feel the baby's movements more strongly. Jake would sit with his hand on her belly every evening, talking to their child about both human and Calthrine culture. "You are going to be unique," he told the baby, "part of two worlds. That might be hard sometimes, but your mother and I will make sure you know how special you are." One evening, Zalara's younger cousin, a female named Lyra, who was barely an adult, came to visit her. Lyra had always been kind to Zalara, even when others mocked her. "Can I ask you something?" Lyra said shyly. "Of course. Do you think it would work for me too, if I found a human to marry?" Zalara studied her cousin carefully. "Are you having trouble conceiving?" "No one knows yet," Lyra whispered. "But I am afraid. My cycle is irregular, just like yours was. I do not want to end up cast aside like you were." "First," Zalara said firmly, "you have value whether you can have children or not. Learn that truth now before anyone can make you feel worthless. Second, I cannot promise that human biology would work for you the way it worked for me. Every body is different. But it is possible? Yes, it is possible. More possible than anyone thought before." Lyra smiled hopefully. "Maybe the future will be different for females like us." The visit to the Calthrine homeworld was supposed to last 1 month. But as political discussions continued and medical research deepened, it stretched to 2 months. Zalara was now 7 months pregnant, and Lisa insisted she needed to return to New Terra soon for the final stage of her pregnancy. "We need to go back to facilities I know and trust," Lisa explained to the Empress. "This pregnancy is unprecedented. I want Zalara somewhere I can handle any complications." The Empress reluctantly agreed, but she made one request. "I want to be present for the birth." As a grandmother, not as an empress, Zalara considered this. Her relationship with her mother was still complicated and difficult, but she could see that the Empress was trying in her own way to be better. "You may come," Zalara agreed. "But you follow Lisa's rules in the medical center. No royal commands, no interference." "Agreed," the Empress said. On their last night on the Calthrine homeworld, Zalara stood on the palace balcony, looking out at the city lights. Jake joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind, careful of her pregnant belly. "Are you glad we came?" he asked. "Yes," Zalara said. "It was hard but necessary. I needed to face them. And I needed to show them that I am not broken. I never was." "No," Jake agreed. "You are perfect." The baby kicked strongly as if agreeing with its father. Zalara laughed and took Jake's hand, placing it where the movement was strongest. "Our daughter agrees with you," she said. "I knew it was a girl," Jake said triumphantly. The labor began 3 weeks after they returned to New Terra. Zalara woke in the middle of the night with sharp pains in her abdomen. Jake was awake immediately, helping her to the medical center that Lisa had prepared specifically for this birth. Lisa and her team were ready. They had studied everything they could about both human and Calthrine births. They had backup plans for every possible complication. But even with all their preparation, everyone was nervous. This was completely unprecedented. The Empress arrived within hours, having stayed on New Terra in anticipation of the birth. She sat quietly in the waiting area, her hands clasped tightly together. Admiral Grant and other human officials also waited, understanding that this birth was more than just a personal event. It would change history. The labor lasted 14 hours. Solara was exhausted and in pain, but Jake never left her side. He held her hand, wiped her face with cool cloths, and reminded her to breathe. "You are the strongest person I know," he kept telling her. "You can do this." Finally, after one last push, a baby's cry filled the room. Lisa lifted the infant up, tears streaming down her face. "It is a girl," Lisa announced. "A healthy baby girl." The baby had skin that was a beautiful blend of brown and the pale purple of Calthrine. Her markings glowed softly, intricate patterns that neither species had seen before. Her eyes, when she opened them, were a striking mix of human and Calthrine features. "She is perfect," Solara breathed as Lisa placed the baby in her arms. "Jake, look at her. She is perfect." Jake could not speak. He just stared at his daughter with wonder, one finger gently touching her tiny hand. The baby gripped his finger with surprising strength. "Hello, Maya," he finally managed to say. They had chosen the name together, a name that worked in both human and Calthrine languages. The Empress was brought in after Solara had a few private moments with her new family. The powerful ruler of the Calthrine Empire stood at the doorway, looking uncertain for perhaps the first time in her life. "Come meet your granddaughter," Solara said softly. The Empress approached slowly, looking down at baby Maya. Her expression crumbled, and tears began to fall down her face. "She is beautiful," the Empress whispered. "Absolutely beautiful. Solara, I am so sorry. For everything. For making you feel worthless, for throwing you away, for wasting so many years when I could have known you." "I know," Solara said, and surprisingly she found she could forgive. Not completely, not yet, but enough for now. The news of Maya's birth spread across the galaxy within hours. The media called her the miracle child, the bridge baby, the hope of two worlds. Scientists requested to study her development. Politicians discussed what her existence meant for interspecies relations. But for Jake and Solara, she was simply their daughter. The first few months were exhausting. Maya needed care around the clock, and her mixed biology meant they could not always rely on standard baby care guides. She needed special formula that Lisa developed, combining nutrients from both species. Her sleep cycle was different from either human or Calthrine babies, but she was healthy. She grew steadily, her markings becoming more vibrant. She smiled early, reaching for her parents with chubby hands. She was curious about everything, studying faces with intense concentration. "She already looks like she is planning something," Jake said one evening, watching Maya stare seriously at a toy. "She gets that from you," Solara teased. Lisa published her research about Maya's conception and birth. The medical community across multiple species was stunned. The paper she wrote became the most downloaded scientific document in galactic history. Other couples began to come forward, asking if such a pregnancy might work for them. Calthrine females with reproductive issues wanted to know if human partners could help them. Other species wondered if their own genetic incompatibilities could be solved through careful matching. Lisa was careful with her answers. "Maya is special, but she is not a guarantee. Every body is different. Every combination of species will work differently. We need more research, more time, more understanding." But the hope was there, and hope was powerful. On the Calthrine homeworld, the Empress kept her promise to make changes. She passed new laws stating that reproductive ability could not be used to determine a person's worth or rights. She opened medical research centers focused on helping all Calthrine who wanted families. She publicly acknowledged that the old ways had been cruel and wrong. It was not perfect. Many traditional Calthrine resisted these changes, but the Empress pushed forward, driven by the image of her granddaughter and the shame of how she had treated her own child. When Maya was 6 months old, they held a formal celebration on New Terra. Both human and Calthrine attended, along with representatives from dozens of other species. It was partly a birthday celebration, partly a diplomatic event, and partly a symbol of new possibilities. Admiral Grant gave a speech. "Maya represents what we can achieve when we open our hearts and minds to those different from us. Her existence is proof that our differences can be strengths, not weaknesses." The Empress also spoke. "My granddaughter was born because I failed as a mother. I threw my daughter away thinking she was broken. But she was never broken. I was the one who was broken, unable to see value beyond my own narrow definitions. Maya is here because humans saw worth where we saw waste. That is a lesson our empire must learn. As the speeches continued, Zalara sat with Maya in her arms, Jake beside her. Their daughter was beginning to babble, making sounds that were neither quite human nor quite Calthrine, but something new. "Do you think she will hate us one day for making her different?" Zalara asked quietly. "Maybe sometimes," Jake admitted. "Being different is hard, but we will make sure she knows she is loved, that she belongs to two worlds and can make her own path." "She will change things," Zalara said with certainty. "Just by existing, she changes what people think is possible." Years passed. Maya grew from a baby into a curious toddler, then into a bright young child. She was fluent in both human and Calthrine languages by age 3. She asked endless questions about everything, driving her parents and teachers to find answers. "Why do Calthrine markings glow?" she asked one day. "Because of special cells in the skin," Zalara explained. "Why do humans have so many different colors?" "Because they evolved in many different places on their home planet," Jake answered. "Why do I have both?" "Because you are special," they both said together. When Maya was 5, she started school. Some children stared at her, unsure what to make of someone so different. But Maya was confident, having grown up surrounded by love and acceptance. She made friends easily, both human and Calthrine children who saw her as just another kid who liked to play and learn. One day, she came home from school with a drawing. It showed a family, a tall human male, a Calthrine female, and a small figure in between with both markings and human features. "That is us," Maya explained proudly. "My teacher said we are a special family because we are from different places." I said all families are special. Zalara hung the drawing in a place of honor, her heart full. The impact of Maya's existence continued to ripple outward. 3 years after her birth, the first other human Calthrine couple announced they were expecting a child. Then another, then more. Lisa's research center expanded, helping couples from various species combinations find ways to build families. The Galactic Council created new laws protecting cross-species families and their children. Discrimination based on mixed heritage became illegal across council space. Universities started programs studying interspecies biology and culture. Not everything was perfect. There were still those who objected, who saw mixed species families as wrong or unnatural. But their voices grew quieter each year as more children like Maya were born and thrived. On Maya's 7th birthday, Zalara and Jake took her to visit the Calthrine homeworld. The Empress, now older and softer, doted on her granddaughter. Maya loved the palace, running through the halls and asking everyone she met about their lives and work. "She has your curiosity," the Empress told Zalara. "And your courage. You have raised her well." "We are raising her together," Zalara corrected. "Jake and I are partners in everything." The Empress smiled. "Yes, I see that. I wish I had understood the value of partnership when I was younger. I might have been a better mother." "You are a good grandmother," Zalara said. "That is what matters now." That evening there was a formal dinner at the palace. Maya sat between her parents, trying to use proper Calthrine table manners, but occasionally forgetting and using her hands the way human children did. The court watched her with a mix of fascination and fondness. Lord Kavrin, the advisor who had suggested sending Zalara away as a joke, approached their table. He was much older now, his markings faded. "Princess Zalara," he said formally, "I owe you an apology that is 7 years overdue. I suggested giving you to the humans as a cruel prank. I thought it would be funny to give them someone we considered worthless. I was wrong in every possible way." Zalara looked at the old lord who had caused her so much pain. She could be angry, could hold on to that grudge, but Maya was watching, learning how her mother handled difficult moments. "I accept your apology," Zalara said. "And I thank you." "Thank me?" Kavrin looked confused. "Yes. If you had not made that suggestion, I would not have met Jake. I would not have found love and acceptance. I would not have Maya. Your cruelty intended to hurt me actually gave me everything I needed to be happy." Kavrin bowed deeply. "You are gracious beyond what I deserve." After he left, Maya tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mama, why was that man mean to you?" "Because he did not understand that people have value even when they are different," Zalara explained. "But he learned. People can change and grow." "Like I am growing?" Maya asked. "Exactly like that." When they returned to New Terra, Jake received a promotion to Admiral. It meant more responsibilities but also more influence. He used that influence to push for greater acceptance and understanding between species. Solara started working with Lisa at the medical center, helping counsel other couples who were trying to have children. She shared her story openly, including the painful parts, so others would know they were not alone in their struggles. And Maya continued to grow, a living symbol of what was possible when people looked beyond differences to see potential. One evening, when Maya was 10, she asked her parents a serious question. "Do you think there will be more kids like me someday?" "Lots of them?" "I think so," Jake said. "Why?" "Because then I will not be so special anymore," Maya said. "I will just be normal." Solara pulled her daughter close. "You will always be special to us, no matter how many other children are born from different species. But you are right that you might not be unique forever. How does that make you feel?" Maya thought about it carefully. "Good, I think. It is hard being the only one sometimes. If there are more kids like me, we can be friends. We can understand each other." "That is a beautiful thought," Solara said. Years continued to pass. Maya grew into a teenager, then a young adult. She studied both human and Calthrine sciences. Interested in continuing Lisa's research, she wanted to help more families, more couples who thought their dreams were impossible. The galaxy had changed. Cross-species relationships were more common. Children of mixed heritage attended schools across council space. The old prejudices still existed, but they were fading, replaced slowly by understanding and acceptance. And it all started because a group of cruel advisors thought it would be funny to give an infertile princess to a human as a prank. But she returned as a mother. And in doing so, she changed everything.